that same sentiment during talks at our PTO meetings. New this year, we're doing another book talk. It's Wendy Mogul's The Blessing of a Skinned Knee, and it just continues that same sentiment of allowing your child to fail and to learn from that mistake, because it's within those moments that they really do learn. Additionally, we're excited to have the Somerset County Division of NJCAP. They're going to be working with our kiddos this January, doing individual homeroom lessons on self-advocacy skills. But before they do that, they're going to meet with our parents at a PTO meeting this week and then with our staff. So for our staff members, last year we conducted a survey on stressors. We just wanted to identify what exactly was stressing them out, what is within our reach that we can fix, what are some things beyond our reach that maybe we can make a bit better for them. I also taught a staff college with Sherry at William Annan for staff all about mindfulness, and we're going to continue that again this year, but we're going to actually branch it out into a 6-hour class that includes mindfulness techniques that students can use as well. Last year, we were excited to have our former school counselor, Carly Aroldi. She came and led an entire faculty meeting all on mindfulness and stress reduction with the staff. It was very well received. They said it was the best faculty meeting they'd ever attended, and I promised them that I wasn't offended by that in any way, and we were very fortunate to have her. Additionally, you can see we began something called Mindful Mondays. Last year from 8 o'clock to 8:15, our computer lab transformed in just a relaxing area with mindfulness, deep breathing exercises, calming music, just a nice way to begin their week. And we also do quite a bit in terms of staff appreciation. Paul and I host a monthly breakfast. If you're ever at the Board of Ed on one of those Fridays, you've probably been welcomed over to have some bagels and treats. We also do some different giveaways, Jeans Day certificates, and social outings. Some things that are new this year for staff: we are still relaxing on Monday, but this time it's with yoga. So we have a certified yoga instructor who works in our building, and she's kind enough to do some yoga with staff. I went today, and as you can see, I'm very relaxed and chill. We also did a mindful listening exercise. I'd like to thank Jen Rayfield. She did it with the administrative cabinet over the summer during our retreat, and it was such a wonderful exercise that we wanted to bring it in with our staff as well, and they really enjoyed that. As I said before, NJCAP, they're training the parents this week, and they're going to be training our staff at our December faculty meeting. And I'd like to thank Kathy Stotler for the idea of that pineapple chart behind me. This is just a way for staff to open up their classrooms and welcome colleagues in. Colleagues can sign up and say, hey, I need some help with guided reading or guided math, and then other staff members can list a date, time, and a lesson topic, and it's a way to invite colleagues in. For our students, we have different mindfulness toolkits that are given to each classroom. We are very fortunate that our PTO donated them, and our school counselor, Molly Wilcox, went in and taught the kids how to appropriately use them. And she also does so many other lessons with the kids on conflict resolution, stress management, things of that nature. You can see an image back there of butterflies. Last year I went into each class from K-5 and I taught a quick lesson on resilience and perseverance, and they saw an image of a butterfly as it developed and evolved and became pretty elaborate from a first grader who really had grit and resilience, and it was a nice concrete way for them to see something that in essence is invisible. We also have a lot of our students participate in Project Morning, and this is just a time for the students to engage in some different problem solving and creative thinking skills under the guise of a teacher. Some more things with our students: we have a monthly assembly. We also have a full week of character ed lessons that correlate to the social skill and the character trait that month. Our students lead our morning announcements, which always include a positive thought to get the day started on the right note, and end with our Cedar Hill salute of compassion, honor, and service. Some more things with our students. We have, last June, we buried a time capsule to commemorate our 60th anniversary, and it was a really nice event. The students all were able to put something into the time capsule. We put a Chromebook in there to see what that technology looks like, and I actually went to my elementary school last November to open up my 5th grade time capsule, and it was a fantastic experience. So if you want to come back in 2043, we're going to take it out of the ground and have a great big celebration. Additionally, we have, during field day, we do an assembly. So last year we had Abracabully, and it taught conflict resolution with magic, because everybody likes magic. Our student council is comprised of students in grades 3, 4, 5. We do different spirit days, different charity events. Like this year they want to do a coat drive. And we also have our character crusaders, which are 4th and 5th grade student leaders. They actually lead our monthly assemblies, and they participate in different charity and fundraising endeavors. New this year for our kiddos, like I said before, we're having NJ Cap come in to teach self-advocacy this January. Student Council is very excited for their school store. Ms. Wilcox is doing a new problem-solving lesson, is actually helping her Crusaders lead lessons within the classroom. And my shirt comes in, the power of yet. I've started to conduct a new lesson this year all about the power of yet. The kids get a big kick out of seeing me wear this shirt. And it really just teaches the kids that there's a lot of things that they can't do yet, but with enough grit and enough perseverance, they will get there. A few more new things this year. We wanted to thank our PTO. We wanted to beautify our cafeteria and give the kids a chance to really have fun during that time, so they purchased 20 new tables. And as you know, elementary school, nobody wants to be the kid at the end of the table, and now we have no kids at the end of the table. So it's been really fantastic. And we also added family dining. We were also having some issues in terms of the students not really treating the bathrooms properly, so we painted all of the student bathrooms, and we also hung some artwork in an effort to beautify that area. And lastly, one new thing this year again is we celebrate birthdays by reading, excuse me, by reading the birthdays aloud on the PA, and the students come down to select a birthday book. All good educators know you beg, borrow, and steal, so I want to thank Oak Street because we got the family dining, the school store, and the birthday books from them, and I'm excited to see what the other schools are doing so we can beg, borrow, and steal some more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Euler. And now we have Jenna Hawkswell, who came to represent Liberty Corner. Thanks, Jenna.
Hello all, I'm Jenna Hawkswell. I'm the assistant principal at Liberty Corner School. So I'm here just to share with you a few minutes about our character education program. So each summer, teachers come into the school. They do what's called a staff college, so they give up their own time, and they do some planning. We look at survey feedback, we look at student concerns, we set fresh goals, and we write new curriculum that is then presented to all staff at our first faculty meeting. So during this first faculty meeting, we also set up expectations for classroom management and student conduct, and we provide teachers with copies of all these procedures and policies. So starting the first full week of school, each Monday morning, we make it a priority to come together and start off our week with character education time. We have shared rituals. We sing our character education pledge. Kids come down and sing it on the loudspeaker. We do a lot of shared experiences in the form of class read-alouds, buddy activities, classroom meetings, and assemblies. So this morning I actually had the pleasure of visiting with students in a 2nd and 4th grade buddy class. They were working together to write thank yous to servicemen and servicewomen. So this correlated with our gratitude pillar of the month. New slide. So this year, the committee felt a need to get back to the basics of focusing on a single pillar each month, further strengthening healthy connections in our community, and doing more direct teaching of what it looks like to show respect and manners in the school setting. So you can see here, this is our LCS Manners acronym poster. Children know that at LCS, we look up, we connect with a smile and say hello, goodbye, or thank you. And we remind the children to use these manners with everyone, and especially with people whom they might not necessarily think of or remember, and we've noticed this in the past. So as they're getting on the bus, we make sure that they're looking up at the bus driver, saying good afternoon, saying the bus driver's name, and we're facilitating those connections for them. New slide. So at our recent Veterans Day assembly, you can see that they were doing just that again. So they not only did they make thank you cards for the veterans, but they also lined up and looked each veteran in the eye, shook their hand, and said thank you. So children are taught to respect both adults and one another. So new slide. So we have lots of student leadership opportunities at LCS. So just today, I was able to meet with the KFC, and that's our Kids for Character committee. It's not KFC that you're thinking of, Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's a terrible coincidence, yes. So they were asking questions of our lunch aides in order to get a stronger perspective of them and to learn about their perspective, what they would like from the students at lunch and recess, and to know a little bit about them more personally. So they did this video interview that will then be shared through the rest of the school. And they plan on doing video interviews with cafeteria workers and with Aramark custodial staff. So it's a really big focus on sort of building that community and learning about one another. We have a student council who is currently in the process of collecting toys for a charity drive. They participate in other drives, organize school events, and make sure that student input is provided in our school-wide decisions. We have the Peace Patrol, which was expanded this year so that they have more coverage during all the different recess periods. And students are trained to look for brewing conflict outside on the playground, intervene, and model and guide conflict resolution skills. We have booster clubs that are nice because they not only benefit the students and the teachers and the younger students whom they serve, but it's also a boost for the older children who are part of the booster clubs. These are children who need to know that they have a powerful and positive role to play in our community, and so it just does that and gives them that boost. And finally, our newest addition, you can see a little picture, I think, up in the corner, is our Paws Up Patrol. Those are our morning greeters, our third graders. So they make sure to give everyone a smile and hello and a high five as they come in the building, and they have their little lion paws. So next slide. Many of our leadership opportunities are run by our wonderful guidance counselor, Mr. Rauschenberger. He travels through the school teaching regular lessons in all of the classes. He covers the topics of anti-bullying, empathy building, conflict resolution, stress management, friendship skills, and mindfulness. He also meets with individuals and small groups to support them in difficult transitions and also in building social skills. The next slide. Our school-wide Connection Day was named as a promising practice from character.org. On this day, students are able to share something special about themselves with their peers and with staff members. What I like most about this day is that it reframes how children think of one another. So instead of thinking, that's Jill and she always shouts out in class, they might start thinking, that's Jill and she's a really talented singer. So it sort of reframes everyone in a more positive way, and we believe stronger connections increase the level of respect that we have for one another and that we show for one another. In addition, we hold connection clubs during our character ed time, so students get to meet with other children and also staff members who are not necessarily in their own classes to pursue interests and hobbies together. This past year, I was able to run a group that chose to work on Reader's Theater, and Dr. Oliver was able to share his love of rocketry with a group of students, which was fun to watch. So these unique experiences reduce stress for all students and really make the children feel special. We find that it is important to infuse character into every subject in class throughout the day. It's just simply what we do. It's not just that one period every Monday morning. So recently I had the pleasure of watching a third grade writing lesson in which students learned the importance of perseverance when it comes to revising their writing. Next slide, please. So really you can walk into any class, even a PE class, and see our character education at play. In fact, PE units that are written by the PE teachers are all built around character education themes with a focus on sportsmanship, student-run lessons, being fair and unbiased, learning how to handle disappointments, as well as how to be humble and gracious after a victory. Research shows that more children engage in collaborative practices, the more they can develop interpersonal skills, self-discipline, kindness, and compassion towards others. So I'll leave you with this final slide, and it is a photo of King Character, who is our school mascot, so he comes out every so often to get the kids excited. There's a picture of a buddy class traveling through the halls together, and also the leadership mural that was made by our students and with the help of Miss Bino, our art teacher. So I hope you enjoyed this little glimpse of how we support social and emotional learning at Liberty Corner School. Thank you.
Do you need to take a deep breath? It's a lot, right? It's good stuff, though. Thank you, Ms. Hawkswell. Okay, thank you, Dr. Costa. I know you joined us tonight to talk a little bit about how things are going at Oak Street.
Okay, good evening. My name is Jane Costa, and I'm the principal of Oak Street School. This evening, I'm going to share some of the many programs and activities we engage in at Oak Street School in order to foster and create a nurturing, caring, and safe educational environment for students and staff. As you can see, our vision statement is to live, to love, to learn, and to leave a legacy. And of course, we have a mission statement, which, along with our vision statement and our mission statement, is in the foyer. So when you come into Oak Street School, we have them both prominently displayed. And our mission statement is, at Oak Street School, we are a community of leaders. We recognize and celebrate the leader within us. We love one another, excel in all we do, achieve goals together, and do what is right. At Oak Street School, we have created a character education initiative that we refer to as the Learn to Lead program. We have taken many of the valuable components of the International Leader in Me program to create our own unique initiative. The Learn to Lead program is a leadership model which seeks to help children develop leadership qualities. It is grounded in the belief that building cooperative relationships and nurturing responsibility, kindness, good judgment is the basis for creating a successful community of learners. By developing the whole child, socially, emotionally, academically, and ethically, the program fosters a climate of principle-centered and personal leadership. Research shows the benefits of social and emotional learning in achieving positive academic, interpersonal, and mental health outcomes. That's the slide I'm on now, so don't change it. We do many things at Oak Street School. Of course, we have our Learn to Lead initiative, and it's based on Covey's, really there are 8 habits. The 8th habit is more of finding your voice. This year, we have identified a 9th habit that we'll be sharing with the children, and it is empathy. And that is a value that we are going to be promoting a great deal at Oak Street School this year. We have a theme. Every year we do come up with a theme, and our theme this year is Score Big with the 8 Habits. So we have the sports theme running throughout the building. We also encourage the children to set goals, and we call them WIGs, wildly important goals. They're not pigs, they're not pretty important goals, but they're wildly important goals. And so we have the children keep those goals in a data notebook so that they continually work on them throughout the year. We have many leadership opportunities. We have clubs. We have opportunities where children can give speeches at our monthly assemblies. We have children who are greeters, especially when we have new families coming to Oak Street School. We have some of our students come and take the new families on a tour. We think that's very important, that they get to meet the new families and greet them. We have student-led assemblies. All of our assemblies are led by the students. I'm there to kind of gently guide them, but basically they are the ones who are doing the entire assembly. We have morning and afternoon announcers. 5th graders sign up, and they get to do the announcements every day, and they really look forward to doing that. We had our 3rd annual Leadership Day. It's a lot like the Connection Day, but we've been doing it now for 3 years, and it's a day where we encourage children to share something special about themselves. I found out that a little kindergartner is a fencer. I was really quite surprised by that. He was an épée fencer. We find out that children are artists. We find out, what their special love or interest is. And we did that earlier in the year this year. The past 2 years, we did it towards the end of the year. But with parent input, they said, we really should be doing this earlier so that we could break down boundaries and children could understand each other. And it's been very successful. And of course, we are planning to continue to do that. We've had Career Day where parents come in and share their careers with the children, and we're having it again on March 22nd for our 3rd year in a row. We have weekly school spirit days. Every Friday is a school spirit day. We do have buddy classes where children at different grade levels get together to work on different projects. We also have service projects. We have just finished our food drive. We are also having the children make cards because we have a teacher who's a friend of hers, the son is in Afghanistan, so we're going to try to make as many cards as possible so that we could send to the troops in Afghanistan. We're going to be collecting books at our family reading night in February, and we have a source. We have a school in southern Jersey who the school is in dire need of books. We have a parent and staff Learn to Lead committee. We have our family dining program. I started that in 2001, and it's been going strong, and it's a great program. I'm very proud of it, where parents get to come in and have lunch with their child. The teachers integrate leadership language and the 8 habits really, into everything that they do, so that if they're doing a lesson, they may mention to the children, oh, I see that you're synergizing, you're working nicely, you're seeking to understand, you've come to a resolution, it's a win-win. So it's not that we're teaching them in isolated lessons, but we're integrating the language throughout the day. We also have mindfulness activities. I have 2 teachers who were trained in that. The PTO paid for them to receive this training, so they integrate that and also teach it to the staff. We also have Most Valuable Player. That is part of our sports theme. If a teacher sees a child exhibiting a habit, they get a little certificate, and they get to keep one part to put in their data notebook, and the other one they put in a box. And at our monthly assemblies, one is picked from each grade level, and the child gets to come up at the assembly, get their picture taken, and then we have a special bulletin board by our cafe, and they are the MVP for that month. So children really like that. We do Workout Wednesday, where we encourage the staff to, sharpen the saw, habit number 7, to wear workout gear. We encourage the children, and we do some different activities throughout the day, some little aerobic activities. We do our kindness pledge every Monday during morning announcements. We do a kindness pledge, and on the first day of school, we all gather together as a community, and we recited the kindness pledge because that's very important to us. We also have a school store. Next slide, please. The pictures you see here show our Leadership Day and children who were, they had their displays. It could have been a simple card display. It could have been just bringing in the objects. The little boy who was the fencer, he brought in, his fencing mask and his gloves and was able to show that. And it is really a wonderful activity and program to see. We all love it. Next slide, please. We have a school-wide election. Children in 5th grade are encouraged to run for school president. They are allowed to put up some posters. They give a speech to the entire school community, and then we vote. And the student who receives the most votes is president, and the runner-up is vice president. Every child in 4th and 5th grade is encouraged to run for ambassador, and in that instance, only the class itself votes for their ambassador. So we have an ambassador from every 4th and 5th grade class, and in addition to the president and vice president. Next slide. We've been doing birthday books for quite a long time now, and their children's names are announced at the morning announcements, and they get a book, they get a bookmark, a pencil, and then members of the birthday club make birthday cards, and at our assembly, every child for that month, their name is announced. They come up, they get a birthday card from members of the birthday club, and this year, the student leader said to me, you know what, they're just coming up and getting a card, can we do something more? So starting this, I think it's Friday when we have our assembly, we're going to sing happy birthday to all the children too who come up, so that's something new that we'll be doing. The next slide, please. The Oak Street School staff, we have a Learn to Lead staff committee, and they wanted to beautify the school as well. So they came in, and if you come to Oak Street School, you'll see a lot of murals that the teachers made. They put up a mirror, and if you see that one, it says, "Do you see the leader in you?" It's right at what we call this Grand Central, where the 2 hallways kind of intersect. And I also encourage the teachers to pick a word. What one word guides you throughout the year? And we made a bulletin board, and the teachers posted their one word. My one word was hopeful, because I think in any situation there is always hope, and that's the word that is guiding me. And the teachers really enjoyed doing that. At our faculty meetings, I started off all the time with a WWW, what went well? Sometimes you could talk about what went well in your classroom, what went well in your life. Some people will say, you know, my daughter's expecting, my daughter's engaged, or it might be a celebration that happened in the classroom. And I do door prizes, and I also encourage teachers to do presentations, to come up and if there was a successful thing that they did in the classroom, maybe it's a strategy to come and share with their peers. We do monthly breakfasts as well, and we have pride events. These are a group of teachers who come together, and they come up with ways, like we just had Pie Day for Thanksgiving. Teachers bring in pies and apple cider. We do soup and salad days, and so we like to have some fun because, you know, sometimes it's a little stressful for teachers, and so it's a great day. The next slide, yeah. We also spread kindness. We do bucket fillers. We do the kindness recognition. That's the most valuable player. We have monthly kindness ambassadors. We participate in the Great Kindness Challenge. This is the 4th year that we'll be doing that. And this year we started the Peace Patrol again. Next slide, please. Anti-Bullying Week was October 1st through the 5th. And our guidance counselor, Ms. Kunzman, delivered guidance lessons in every classroom, K to 5. We also had special messages during our morning announcements. We also had a door decorating contest. We encouraged the teachers to decorate their doors with signs of kindness. And what we did was, because we truly believe that students are leaders, most of the teachers had their students come up with the ideas and do the decorating. It wasn't them doing it, but the students. We also put a kindness message on the fence. If you drove by Oak Street, you'll see our fence with red Solo cups. Every child came out, and they were able to spell out the word kindness on the fence. And we also read the book, What Does It Mean to Be Kind, at one of our recent assemblies. Next slide, please. Just a little something what Ms. Kunzman does as her guidance in her guidance program. She teaches guidance lessons that apply to mental health issues, which include but not limited to bully prevention, self-esteem, friendship, and identifying feelings. And so in 4th grade, she's focusing on teaching coping skills. In 5th grade, she's teaching empathy. And this year in 3rd grade, she's going to be teaching effective communication skills. And the last slide. I've cited this quote many times, but I truly believe in it. I think Muriel Summers from A.B. Combs Schools, what she says is so true. We only have one chance to prepare our students for a future that none of us can possibly predict. What are we going to do with that one chance? Something to leave you with. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Costa. I see Mr. Pepitone making his way up here, so Mount Prospect must be next up. Thanks, Mr. Pepitone.
I got fans over there. Good evening. Yes, so at Mount Prospect School, we have Panther Pride, which stands for being positive, being respectful, showing integrity, determination, and empathy. So we have a Panther Pride committee who really focus on promoting those values throughout the school year. We really ask them to focus on one goal for this year, which is being connected and having community in our school. Next slide, please. So one way we're doing that is through the Week of Respect. We worked on this idea of Start With Hello, which came from the Sandy Hook Promise organization. So it's based on the idea that students can be more connected with each other by simply just saying hello to each other, and really focusing on students who tend to be more socially isolated, finding ways to just start conversations. So we had students create pledges of why it's important to start with hello, and we pasted those pledges all over our building. And we got ideas like being positive and having people feel welcome in the building, and we've been continuing with that initiative throughout this year. We also had this crazy idea this year, which is called Team Time. So part of our time with our Panther Pride Committee over the summer, we do a staff college, and we were looking at our buddy classes and deciding how we might want to rework our buddy class, which is traditionally an older grade and a younger grade coming together and meeting like on a monthly basis. And someone said, what if we just mix everybody up and create teams? And we thought, maybe we can do this, and we started thinking of logistics, and we've decided to try it this year. So we are actually taking all K-5 students in our building and reorganizing them into teams. So there's members from kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade, about 20 per team, and 2 to 3 teachers per team. And we're meeting periodically throughout the year, and what we're working on are lessons that focus on Panther Pride values. So we just met in October for our first team time, and it was simply just to create a team name and just get a chance to do an icebreaker to get to know each other. And it was successful, it was wonderful, and the kids really enjoyed it. They have all different team names, they're like dolphins, and they're walking around doing flippers with each other in the hallway now. So it's just building that connection with one another, and we'll do this periodically throughout the year. And if it's a success, we'll continue with the same teams year after year. And we'll just add on to it with each new kindergarten. So in addition to our Panther Pride Committee, we also have been partnering with the United Way and the College of St. Elizabeth for our school culture and climate initiative. So this is rooted in the work of Dr. Maurice Elias. What we've been focusing in on is initial survey results, which we did a few years back. We created an SEL student committee and a staff committee, and then we've been looking at our strengths and our opportunities for these two in these areas to start to form direction in terms of which way we want to go with our initiatives with these committees. So these were our initial survey results, which we found encouraging. One, because of the amount of response that we got back. To have, let me make sure I have it, 78% of parents be a part of that initial survey was overwhelming for us, which was great. It's definitely above the average. In addition to that, overall, it was positive results for our initiative. But within that positivity, there's definitely still chances for us to show opportunity for growth. And the two areas that we really focused in on with our survey results, one was to increase student voice in our building, which is not uncommon among buildings, and the other was to start to develop a common language among our staff in terms of student expectations. We felt like those were the two big glaring areas that we can continue to work on. That's really what the results showed us. So simultaneously, as we were going through these results and we were starting to talk in our committees, a group of us in the committee attended a workshop on this concept of positive discipline, which focuses on making sure that students feel connected to their schools and that they feel significant in their school. And it speaks to like a common language of how staff can interact with kids. And it spoke to having student-centered class meetings, so it gives students voice. So we sat at this workshop and thought, this is everything that's in our survey. We should start to really focus in on maybe positive discipline. And so I came back to the school and took every ounce of me not to say, I went to a workshop, I want to change everything in our building right now because I think this is the right way to go. But what's nice about this is that it gives us a framework. So this is the positive discipline, the house of positive discipline. And we're working towards the top of that house. And it's really focused on class meetings that are purposeful, meaningful, that are problem-solving in nature, and that are student-centered and often student-driven. But I realized that that takes time for us as a school to get there. So we've spent last year, and we're starting this year, really at the bottom level of that house. We're building the foundation right now. And part of that foundation work that we're doing led us naturally to start thinking about our mission and our vision statements. And really, again, coming back to that idea of a common language, a common expectation. So we started to really focus in on what do we want the mission of our building to be? What's our purpose here at Mount Prospect School? Why do we exist as a school? And I met with the SEL committee and the Panther Pride committee, our student groups, our student council, our parent committees, really every stakeholder in the building. And we started to work through what do we want the purpose of our building to be. So another acronym, there's PRIDE again, we love our acronyms. And that's really our mission statement for our school. If we go to the last slide, it shows us our vision statement, where we want our students to be. That was the question I kept asking committees. Where do you want your students, your fifth graders, who do we want to send to Annan? What type of a student do we want to send there? And we really had those conversations throughout the year and fine-tuned the language and came across with our new mission and vision statement. What's nice is we have posters made. They're up all over the building. We have a mission and a vision statement in every classroom now. And it's starting to become the guiding principles that we use in each of the decisions that we make. And I think we're starting to get to that common language piece, which ultimately leads to, I believe, more student-centered activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pepitone. Ms. Hudak came to speak to us on behalf of BOE Meeting.
Thank you very much. So at William Ann, over the course of the last couple of years, we followed the character education pillars that many of the elementary schools utilized very early on. And what we established over the course of the last 3 or 4 years is that middle school students are very different than elementary students. Utilizing a character education program built on what our elementary schools have already created, we had to enhance that to make that more developmentally appropriate for our middle schoolers. As we went through this process, we quickly learned that having students be having voices in what it was that we were doing in our school was equally important. 2 years ago, we used our students to create our B statements. They went from our Viking values. We changed their name to the B statements, where the students identified what they felt were the most important characteristics of a Viking: responsible, respectful, positive, and kind. And so those were our steering words or philosophy as we began to basically rebuild our character education program. Very similarly to the elementary schools, seeing is believing, and students having this information in front of them is just a small part. Every other Thursday, our middle school students engage in character education programs for 30 minutes. We run a delayed schedule where students are using 30 minutes of their time developmentally to work on 6th, 7th, and 8th grade character education activities. These activities are really built based upon the student survey data that we take every year at the end of the school from the students. Tonight I'm going to be focusing primarily on the things that we are doing differently as opposed to what we continuously do at the middle school. We were also recognized by character.org for our promising practices at the middle school. The Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is a very important part of our 7th grade, as well as the Day of Giving, which was newly created in the course of the last 2 years with our 8th grade. The new initiatives that we're doing at the middle school this year, we have partnered with the United Way as well as the College of St. Elizabeth for a 3-year initiative on the social emotional well-being of our students. In talking with Mount Prospect and bringing in the United Way representatives, we felt like it was time for us to really formally evaluate our programs at the middle school that included students, staff, and parents. I want to thank many of the parents who participated. We had over 798 parent responses, which was huge. Considering our last survey, we only garnished 258. We have not received the results from the parent survey. We expect to get information on that sometime in the late winter to early springtime. This year, we're also partnering with the Municipal Alliance with a grant to help our peer leaders program and to create a new aspect of that, and that will be coming in the spring. We did a PTO presentation, as Mr. Warner had alluded to earlier, with Doug Collier, a DEA agent, retired, which I thought was very powerful. He gave extremely well-heeded advice. I did share that information with some of my colleagues as I plan on bringing him back and hopefully talking to our students if the funding is there. We are also doing a staff college at the middle school this year on artificial maturity, which talks about students growing too quickly and thinking that they're ready to handle on more things than they actually are. And that's open to the parents as well as our staff. We have done a significant amount of professional development around social emotional learning, as I think many of us in the district have done this year, both on the student side as well on the staff side. This year, we're also going to be visiting one of the middle school's National School of Character in Tinton Falls to get an understanding of the comprehensive programs that they currently are offering to see how we can make things better at WAMS. In the spring, I'm hoping that everyone looks forward to attending Digital Citizenship and our Literacy Night. This will be for parents and students. We're going to be outreaching more to our parent community this year in the middle school and in hopes to educating you on how you can help educate your child. We've been doing a great deal more communication via the assistant principals who are sending out either monthly or bi-monthly newsletters by grade level, as well as our school counselors who are communicating out initiatives that are happening as they're teaching and instructing in the classrooms. We hope that parents take advantage of these opportunities to have communications with their students about the topics that we're talking with their child about during the day. One of the other big initiatives that we planned this year over the course of the summer with Dr. Bush is we created a WAM service learning opportunity. You know, middle schoolers have a lot of energy and many of them have a lot of time. And so we worked with local organizations in the community to identify where middle schoolers could put positive efforts. And we created an online resource link for all middle school students and their parents to utilize if they're looking to give back to their community. This was sent out in a subsequent Friday folder, but it's archived where any parent or child can go in and find lists of organizations of things that interest them, again, in order to make that connection from the school to their community. This is the new items that we're going to be doing at the middle school this year, and now I'm going to turn it over to Drew.
Thanks, Karen. Mr. Kraus, last but not least.
Best for last. Good evening, everyone. Drew Kraus, high school principal. When I thought about coming up here to present on culture and climate here at Ridge, I thought about two broad topics. One was the physical environment here, and another is programming. So last year when I got here as the new kid on the block, so to speak, my thought was, how can I make an immediate impact here, to change the face of this place? Not that it needs a lot of changing, but as I walked in for a school as prestigious as Ridge, I thought that the physical plant needed a little work. So one of the first things we did, I looked at enhancing the building and campus aesthetics. So if you've been around, you've probably seen, flags in the parking lot and TV monitors running in the building with streaming video of our students involved in different activities. You've seen paintings on the walls, new rugs and welcome signs. So I thought, and I've gotten positive feedback from that from students and parents alike about, hey, this place is really looking good. So I think that was one positive change. Another thing we did was at the end of the summer, we had a volunteer day for our students. One of the projects we'd like to pursue is our cafeteria and try to make that spruced up a little bit. And we had students actually helping paint and work on that cafeteria at the end of the summer, along with PTO volunteers, to try to build that connectivity here to the school. So that was some of the stuff that I tried to do initially to try to just give a little bit of a facelift here at the school. Another thing I've been working on with Mrs. Smith, our Director of Student Counseling, is a makeover of the guidance suite. So if you used to walk into the guidance suite behind the secretarial staff, there was a different look on the wall than there is now. Soon there'll be some phraseology on that wall that's pretty inspiring. There's new furniture coming in to make it more inviting and relaxing. So we're going to change the look of that as well, and we've been working diligently to try to make that happen. So in terms of those physical changes, that's happening now. Some of the other things we've done, and I think this was mentioned a few weeks ago here, is to try to make a relaxation chill zone room. I know our Project Citizen group is something that they proposed last year when they won an award for the state in a presentation that they did, and that's something we're working on as well, and we have a space picked out for that. We've also tried to put a moratorium, if you will, on certain times that we make announcements in our building. I guess historically, there were announcements blaring all the time. And after a while, people sort of said, it gets drowned out, you don't hear it after a while. So we try to reduce those announcements to certain times of the day to give them more effect and to try to make a better environment so that there's just not a voice coming over, whether it's beginning of class, in between classes, all the time during the day, just to try to change that physical environment. We've had teachers who have had mini grants that they've been given to create different type of furniture in their room that's more comfortable and relaxing for students to try to change the vibe in the room. So we've had teachers do that to try to change the physical environments within their rooms as well. We anticipate more of that happening as we move forward. There are probably 2 or 3 classrooms outfitted that way, and we have more planned for the future. So we have that different type of furniture to give a different look in our rooms. In terms of programming, oh, sorry, Mike, those were hit it, right? Okay, there you go, effects. Last spring, I was involved in forming an SEL group here at the high school that involved a limited number of individuals who eventually presented something to some of the board members last June. We have since expanded that group to include, all the building administration, all of our school counselors, our SACs, supervisors, and our teachers. There's a cohort there that are now working on SEL initiatives, and we're creating subcommittees there to deal with things like character education and build a program there. SEL programming to try to incorporate more of that. Planning for in-service days like we did a month ago. Providing things like staff appreciation and ideas for those type of things. And I think there's the things that we're dealing with facilities and things of that nature. So that SEL working group is going to be split off into different subgroups to try to address those needs and build those type of programs here at the high school. Things that I guess haven't been here in the past that we're working to build now. We are presently, as you may well know, analyzing different master schedule options, whether it's a rotating drop or what's called an A-B day for feasibility and compatibility with our building. That would entail going from a 9-period day of classes to 8 periods with a common lunch. That's probably the model that the ideal model we're looking for. But part of that in terms of programming is to try to, and I've said this before at board meetings probably last year, is to give students a break, give teachers a break during the day so that every class isn't running every single day. That's another programming piece. There's a freshman orientation planning group that I've put together that we're working on trying to revamp our orientation program from what it has been, which is basically two-hour sessions, splitting grade level, splitting the incoming 9th graders into a morning session and an afternoon session with identical information shared, to bringing the whole class in on a larger scale into a 4 or 4.5 hour program whereby, not only will they go through their whole schedule during the day, and that's the ideal plan, in a short amount of time, but to also have rotational blocks where students will learn practical skills like how to access Google Classroom, how to get onto Aspen, how to do Turnitin, to learn the ins and outs of Ridge in terms of the things they need to know, how to get around the building, where their lockers are, to have SEL programming as well, to set up a rotational piece, and also to give them lunch and feed them and say, welcome to Ridge, enjoy your experience, we'll see you in about a week. And we're here for you. And of course, that's also going to incorporate some of our upperclassmen to meet these young people and maybe match them up, which is something I'll talk about in the next page. So there is a movement afoot to change that orientation program to have the whole class here and not to divide it up. Some of the other programming things that have been happening and have been spoken about, we've had therapy dogs here at least twice, and we're going to continue to do that with our therapy dog club throughout the year. Quite frankly, it's been a big hit from when we started last spring for the first time. We had probably 500-600 kids visit the therapy dogs the last time they were here on November 7th, I think that was, if I'm not mistaken. Pep rallies and more assembly programs. So second year in a row we had a pep rally. I think it went well. We're always working to improve that. Interestingly enough, for the first time last year, we had a play preview, or spring musical preview for our students. I asked one of our veteran teachers that day, I said, when was the last time this happened here at Ridge? She turned to me and says, as long as I've been here, we've never done this. We will continue to do that with High School Musical this year. I've already planned that out with Mrs. Harvey. So it was a big hit last year. I expect it to be the same, but we are planning more assembly programs for students here at the high school so they can take a break during the day and enjoy the experience. Peer leadership and mentor program. We want to eventually link upperclassmen with underclassmen. And that's going to be part of the SEL working group trying to make that happen. So that, hey, if I'm a freshman or a sophomore and I have an issue here, I can turn to a junior or a senior and say, hey, I'm having trouble with this issue. Can you help me along? Maybe I don't feel comfortable going to an adult in this building, but I'll go to one of my peers who can be sort of a big brother, big sister to that individual. We all know that we're trying to expand the health curriculum to involve more, incorporate more SEL initiatives. We have our teachers have, some of our teachers have practiced mindfulness in their classrooms. And some of them have been doing it for a number of years, I've discovered. At our senior assembly this year for our class, we actually had a mindfulness exercise done by one of our teachers, and I think it was a big hit. I think the seniors really enjoyed it, and we're trying to incorporate more of that throughout the school building into our classrooms throughout this year and moving forward. Just a look, you can hit twice, Mike. Like Life After High School is another program we incorporate as another programming piece, and Ridge Gives Back, sort of like the WAMS volunteer opportunity, was something we put in last year for volunteers during testing. For students who weren't testing, they went out actually into the community and volunteer their time at different organizations around the community. So these are some of the programming things that we've done and will continue to do for the culture and climate here at Ridge. Lastly, if you've been around this building, one more, Mike? Yep, you may have heard me say this. If you change nothing, nothing will change. So we're here looking to do that. We're here looking for those ideas, looking to get people involved, and trying to make that change. It's not going to happen overnight. As I've always said as well, Rome wasn't built in a day, and we will continue to try to make strides moving forward on these initiatives that I've just talked about. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krause. So, just a moment of thankfulness. It was Thanksgiving, as we all know, this past weekend. I'm thankful for this group. They work really, really hard. I can't take credit for anything that they're working on, and I really appreciate the time and effort that you guys put into this stuff, and I appreciate you coming tonight to share about it a little bit. With that said, I'd offer an opportunity for board members to ask some questions of any of us. I know we threw a lot at you this evening, but if there's something you have a question about, we'll be happy to try to answer it for you. Anybody have any questions? It's a lot. You're welcome. All right, so it sounds like you guys are off the hook if you want to go home, get some sleep. I know your day starts early. Thanks for coming, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll head back up. Thank you, Mr. Fackelman.
Okay, we're up to the policy committee. We have one item. Would someone like to make a motion? Move that item, Mr. Salmon. Someone like to second? Mrs. Korn? Do you want to do the report first? Okay.
The policy committee met on November 12th, and we had to, we discussed the calendar for 2021, school year 2021, 2022. So the policy dictates that the board has to approve the calendar 3 years out by December of the current year. The draft calendar is the pattern are on the same as in previous years. Contractual days are 183 for students and 188 for teachers. Right now, negotiations are underway with the BTEA, so this could impact the calendar going forward. The first reading is tonight, and then the second reading for approval would be on December 17th. The other discussion during the meeting was of the Regulation 2412. It's home instruction due to health condition. The policy was updated, but because of a clerical error, the regulations still needed updating on the website. All the updates have been approved by the board, and this oversight has already been corrected, so that's that. Did you want to discuss the calendar thing right now? Or?
Yeah, sure. So on the calendar that I guess you guys looked at multiple versions of
Yeah.
the calendar at the committee, but the one that was attached in the folder for tonight's meeting had the students coming in on the Friday before Labor Day for a half day. So I would like to make a motion to change that to have them come in on Tuesday. I feel like if we're going to make any changes going forward with the calendar to try to get ourselves more flexibility with vacations and or snow days, like I would like to wait and see how things, all the discussions come out, this year. And this calendar's 3 years out, so we could always modify it later should we come to, a decision that we want to do something different regarding days off and snow days. So I guess, do I make a motion to?
Yes, it would be just a motion to amend.
Okay, a motion to amend this calendar just to make that one change.
And I'd like to second that motion.
Okay.
Now what you can do is just discuss.
And now we can
whether
discuss.
you want to make that change.
Okay.
And then you have to pass
Okay.
the motion to amend, and then you can discuss the whole calendar. So right now, we're on the floor right
So
now.
now we're just discussing the
Whether to amend it.
whether to amend it. Okay.
To amend it to start on Tuesday instead of Friday.
Okay. So we're discussing that amendment first, and then we can discuss any other aspects of the calendar. Mrs. Warner?
Yes, so if I understand what you're proposing is changing from the students reporting the Friday before Labor Day for a half day, and instead having them report the Tuesday after Labor Day because
It's the Thursday, not the Friday.
the Thursday,
Right?
the
No,
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So the
It's-
staff have the 2 in-service days on the Wednesday, Thursday, and what the proposal was to have the kids report not on that Friday, but the following Tuesday. So it's
So
just
what that
shifting-
does is it
shifts
makes
one
Labor
day.
Day weekend a 4-day weekend before the start of school. I think it would be exceptionally frustrating for families to have to come back for a half day on a Friday. It makes more sense for them to start that Tuesday. That's my 2 cents.
So it just all it does is change June, 1 more day of school in June, 1 less day of school in September. That's it. Do you want that Tuesday to be a full day? That's how we typically would start with a
Yeah, I
full
mean, I
day
think
of
that's what we usually do.
school. Okay.
Any other comments about that?
It would just move graduation
Yep.
to the Monday, just
From
so
a
that
Friday
everybody
to a Monday.
understands.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, so,
So now the first thing you have to vote on is just that amendment.
okay,
So everyone in favor of making that change.
okay. Okay, so I guess we'll do a roll call for that.
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Mrs. Werner?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes?
Mr. Salmon? Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Yes.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Yes,
Madam President?
thank you. And
Now
now,
today.
right,
Yeah.
Now you've amended it.
right. Now we can discuss it.
Now you can discuss the calendar in general, and
Right.
we'll have to ultimately have a vote on approving the
Right.
first reading.
Okay. Any other comments or questions about the calendar? Mr. Byrne?
I just have one comment, and that is that college kids are starting earlier. And I appreciate that we'd be affected by negotiations and everything else, but the family is out of sync for about 2 weeks at the end of August and the beginning of September. Some are starting early. And the same thing is true May, June. I think it would be good if somehow we could get the public school system and the colleges on the same system, so your family is, now, I appreciate it's a big problem, but
Well, that would mean all of my kids' colleges would have to coordinate with each other so they could have the same
well, they
schedule.
already have.
My kids' colleges haven't, unfortunately for me. I mean, I think a lot of people have expressed sentiment, in all of our calendar discussions about, wishing we could get started and not go later in June. So I think that's a common theme. Any other questions or comments? Just as a note in this calendar, Diwali falls on one of the days of Teachers' Convention, so it's not listed on the calendar because we're already off that day. Just wanted to put that out there because I checked. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so I guess now we're going to vote on the calendar,
Mr.
the
Byrne?
amended calendar.
Yes.
Mrs. Swerner?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Yes.
Mrs. McCune?
Yes.
Madam President?
Thank you. We're up to curriculum.
Okay, I don't have the report on the November 14th meeting, but Ms. Fox wanted me to let the board members know about plans to have Dr. Lenore Cortina. She is a gifted education consultant and also a Rutgers professor, and she's going to be working with the Elementary Gifted and Talented Committee to improve the identification rubric, including expanding it down to kindergarten level all the way through 5th grade, and also provide guidance on the recommendation for changes and enhancements to the Elementary Gifted and Talented program. So I just wanted to make board members aware of that.
Yeah, and I think the sort of the timeliness issue, as we learned from her reporting, the cost of the Rutgers professors' services is not zero.
Right.
There is a
I have
cost to have that consulting.
Yeah.
And from my estimate, it seemed as though her budget would be less than $5,000.
Right, it was about $4,300, the
right.
estimate, yeah.
And we're hoping that we might be able to use some grant resources, but that has been something that we need to do a little bit more research on. It seems as though we may be able to use some title funds, perhaps, but we're not certain. But given that we're talking about less than $5,000, Ms. Fox was looking for support, regardless of whether or not we'd have to pay for it out of general fund or out of the grant, if she could go ahead and start making arrangements to work with Rutgers on this project at a budget of not to exceed $5,000. So that's what she was kind of hoping we could just
Right.
have a show of hands or a little determination tonight if the board would be okay with her moving forward on that particular budgetary item.
That's to put more students into gifted
No.
and talented.
No.
No, it's really
No.
to consult on the program itself, to see if we can make some improvements on the program. That would be the reason, not to, to look at criteria. She's big into that, understanding criteria for programs, best practices for G&T programs, providing some consulting on
Right.
those types of things, not to necessarily say, well, it's going to be more students here or
Yeah,
more
I think
students there.
I know where that came from.
I
Mis-
like the idea where the students learn from one another, and when you take the gifted students or the ones that are getting better grades and put them in their own group, again, the kids in the middle lose that interface, and I'm not a big fan of gifted and talented, so
I think at the Gifted and Talented Committee meetings, correct me if I'm wrong, Linda and Karen attended them. The sentiment in the room was a lot of people felt that, they're looking for a more expanded definition of giftedness that includes other areas of strengths that kids have, and also the idea of more school-wide enrichment that would impact all the kids. So I think the general sentiment was not to you know, to expand the kids who would benefit from the enrichment. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess we need to get a consensus.
Yeah,
about
could I get at least
Like
a
a
show of hands
hands.
whether or not I can work within not to exceed $5,000 with this Rutgers professor? Okay, thanks.
Okay, we're up to advocacy.
Advocacy met on November 5th, and prior to the meeting with the PTO presidents, the advocacy group met with Ridge High School student government. Mr. Kraus was also in attendance and took a lot of notes, and he's going to be following up with the students with regard to a lot of their comments and concerns, and he actually just presented on a lot of the topics that they brought up that day. But just to give you an idea of the topics that we talked about, they mentioned wanting to see more murals or banners created by students from the art department just around the campus. There were a lot of questions about the rotating drop schedule, like how it works, what it looks like, what one period lunch would mean for them, how this schedule would affect homework, tests, group projects, and many of them expressed interest in traveling to a school that uses this kind of schedule to see how it all works and what it would look like in action. The group felt that there could be more done for freshmen in Project Adventure in terms of the SEL and team building, which Mr. Krause just mentioned too. In terms of technology, they said that there's a mixed execution of technology in classrooms in terms of the rules of having to put things in the hotels and who, you know, where the phone could be kept. So they just mentioned that. Overall, there was a feeling that there's a need for more mental health education in the curriculum at the high school. Some students expressed that they would love to have a longer pass time for more of a chance to breathe between classes. So they were like talking about 10 minutes between classes. So you know, that just makes the day longer. But it was a good idea. Felt that SEL initiatives should start at William Mannon. Overall, there was a feeling that there should be more peer mentors, peer leaders, while at the same time acknowledging that the process needs to pick the best right students for that kind of a role, because it's not for everyone. There seemed to be a desire to have more homeroom morning meeting times, because I think now they only meet once a marking period, if I'm not mistaken, right? To get more information or have the opportunity to interact with peers that are not in their classes and build connections to a homeroom teacher. They asked about an update for the lounge that was discussed at the Project Citizen, which we saw some kind of pictures. I don't know what the furniture is going to look like, but I know they're working on it. Then there was a need for better study skills, and that came from the students. And the students felt that the front entrance seems to be working well, but some expressed a desire to have more open doors near for the students that come in late. You know, we don't have the staff to man the doors all day long, but if, you know, I know that you guys are working on the doors for everybody, even the staff. So, in terms of the advocacy committee meeting with student government. There is a schedule for the rest of the year. Next month, they're meeting with William Mann and student government. In January, Cedar Hill. February, Liberty Corner. March, Mount Prospect. April, Oak Street. And then May, revisiting the Ridge High School student government again. Ms. Fox was in attendance, and she talked about filling in the blanks of the PTO schedule with curriculum forums. So what they're trying to do is have every department do a K-12 presentation, and despite where it's held. So for instance, on Wednesday? Wednesday at Cedar Hill at 10 o'clock this Wednesday at Cedar Hill. The science department is going to be doing a K-12 presentation. So they're open to the whole district, but they're just going to be held where the PTO meetings are, so we have to do a lot of advertising and getting that out. That was that. Mr. Syed mentioned that there was a flu shot clinic for the staff that took place. He talked about other things, a couple of minor things that the PTO presidents brought up, and then the other thing I wanted to bring to your attention, besides the Cedar Hill PTO meeting on Wednesday, is on Thursday night at 7 o'clock in the PAC is the junior parent or junior sophomore parent presentation for navigating the college process. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you.
Okay, we're up to SEL.
SEL met on the 14th or 15th, I forget, but the minutes are not complete, and I'll report out at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any liaison reports? No. Okay, we're up to public comment on non-agenda items. If anyone has any comments on anything, please give us your name and address when you come up to the microphone and write it on the clipboard afterwards. Thanks.
Hi, Susan Chang, One Watch on Drive. I'm back. Just wondering whether you guys have any answer for the chamber program at the elementary school.
Which program? I'm sorry.
The chamber,
Oh.
the chamber orchestra at the elementary school. I wasn't here last meeting. Jen and I, we brought up the issue regarding the chamber, and we are hoping to hear the answer back from you guys. Also, we have a few high school students who would like, if we don't hear back from you guys, we actually have a few high school students who have gone through the program, and the next meeting they'll be here to talk to you guys about it. Is there any?
We'll respond after all the public comments, then we
Okay.
can respond.
Sure. Okay. I just want to let you know that there are parents next time. We'll bring more parents and to talk about issues since we haven't heard back.
Hello, it's Elaine Daddario, 46 Dykeman Place. I love when you have these meetings about what the different schools are doing for mindfulness and SEL, but I get disappointed every year at this point when athletics, extracurricular, those things aren't talked about, and they get me out of my seat every year. So with extracurricular, there's a lot of people that feel like there's no accountability there. All of the things that the teachers are putting into play in all of this district schools aren't following through to after-school activities. Thanksgiving, half day, go be with your family, travel if you have to. My son was at a tryout. So where is the family time there? My older son who used to play was Christmas Eve, I do the 7 fishes, 4-hour practice. So you wouldn't give homework on a holiday, but yet the athletics and the rest of it continue on. So I just want to bring it up again so that you could think about it, because I'm going to keep saying it, hoping that somebody will hear me. It's been a topic of conversation since Mike Burns started on the Board of Ed, and nothing's changed. So a couple other things I wanted to talk about were how, all work and no play make dull kids. And gym in 8th grade last year became a class that ended up with assessments. And I know we talk a lot about academics, but we can't even let them play now without having to be assessed on it. Not every kid is an academic kid. So kids like my own can't get an A in gym anymore because the Google Classroom assessments bring their grades down. Same thing with ceramics. So I just feel like, something's got to give. If our district is trying to teach to all the children, well, then we're failing at that, because not every kid is academic, and now every class has become academic, which leads me to how we're now putting in a second health marking period. I mean, to a lot of kids, that's going to be more stress. We're talking about stress, but we're adding more academics and another class with projects and another class with assessments. So instead of running around or being physical now, they're going to be sitting in a class, another class, to learn things. And I understand why you're doing it, because parents don't like to parent. But a parent like me that does, with a kid that this is going to be negatively impacting, I have to say something. And I hope you hear me. They're a lot like me. If you want, I can bring in the masses. You know I can. But I'm just hoping that we don't need that you can hear me out. The curriculum around gym is just, it's changing into more of an academic thing. And it also takes an option 2 out, which for a kid that'll be sitting through JV games and varsity games in his junior year who's not academic, that doesn't now have that second option 2 option because it'll be a health class. You know, talk about burnout and stress. So I'm really looking for accountability on the coach and academic and even extracurricular level, orchestra and otherwise. Maybe some family time. Maybe we can get some kind of, not guidelines, but if our teachers have things that they're accountable to, I really would hope that our athletic department could look at that for our coaches. Because there are teachers in this district that teach to those, but don't coach to those. Even to the point of girls not being able to go to prom because they're being held, knowing that they have prom. Everybody else gets a half day and is left to go prepare. But if you're doing softball per se, you can't go because they're going to keep you at practice till 5. So please keep an open mind to that. I know I keep beating this horse, and I probably will until there's some changes, because not everybody's academic. And, you know, we talk about stresses, but then I feel we're adding some. So please consider surveys for the coaches. You'd know it if it's a squeaky wheel or if 10 people are saying the same thing, that you have to look into that. There's really, you know, a lot that needs to be done there, and I hope that you guys will consider some changes in that department. Thank you for listening to me again this year.
Is there anyone else for public comment? Okay, at this point I'll close public comment. Oh, you're going to come up? Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Yulin Pan, 21 Raleigh Court. I have a 5th grader and 2nd grader in Mount Prospect School. I'm here for the chamber orchestra program as well. I just want to say, share something about my son. My son started to learn violin in kindergarten. He learned violin for Taylor Swift because he wanted to play guitar and sing a song just like she did. And then I said, oh, probably a little bit too big, maybe we start from violin. And he learned violin since he was kindergarten. And when he goes to 3rd grade, and he joined the 3rd grade orchestra, he feel thrilled. He find that a lot of kids play violin and other instrument with him. He feel very happy, but it's just a little bit too easy for him, because the first concert, the song for 3rd grader they play is Lightly Roll. It's like dun 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 dun. Okay, so for him, like learn for 3-4 years, he can play Vivaldi concerto, and he joined the 3rd grade and played the song. I like that song, but it's a little bit easy for him. And luckily, he goes to chamber program through the audition, and he find lots of kids who already learned a little bit instrument with just like he did, and then he kind of like enjoy that, and he will practice at home like automatically. I don't have to remind him, oh, did you practice today? So he just practice, not the private teacher's song, it's the chamber orchestra song. So I feel happy about but somehow this year, in September, he kind of sad and come home and say, Mom, I'll never get into chamber again. I said, why? There's no chamber this year. I don't know why. And I know some parents, they wrote an email to the district. I also wrote the email, but I didn't get the answer. We tried to attend the board meeting last time and last time, and this time I would try to find the answer. Probably not only the answer, we try to find a solution. To if we have any difficulty, problem, we try to find a way to figure it out. Because he kind of said, because he said, oh, is that because there's no chamber? Is that because sometimes we play wrong note? Sometimes we speak a little bit when we are practicing. I say, no, it's not like that. I know there's something else, but we need the answer. Hopefully we will have a solution about that. We really hope that we can have a chamber program back. And he's 5th grade now. Hopefully he can have chance this year. Thank you.
Is there anyone else for public comment? No, okay, at this point I'll close public comment, and we can respond to a few of the comments. You want to go first?
Okay, so with regard to chamber orchestra, we did take a look at that, and we talked about the reason why there isn't any chamber orchestra. And really what it comes down to is what's in the curriculum and what isn't in the curriculum. Having separate groups for certain students to be in a chamber group is not part of the district's curriculum, and the problem is that the teachers that are teaching the orchestra classes don't have enough time to do that and also get the regular curriculum done with the regular orchestra programming. So that's the reason why chamber orchestra isn't happening. In order to create an opportunity for that, one of the things we could take a look at is could something be done outside the regular school day and make some extra time for a separate group meeting for a chamber type scenario. That's a possibility. I've asked Mr. Fackelman to take a look at and see if that might be something that could occur. We have lots of programs that run for students after school in a mini unit format, and I think there's a possibility that we might be able to come up with a solution that runs similar to those types of programs. With regard to the comments about SEL for teachers in the classroom, SEL for coaches. What I can say is that I think it's really helpful to have specific information to talk to coaches about what specific concerns you have and see what kind of response you get. And if you're not satisfied by that response, there's an athletic director. And if you're not satisfied by that response, then there's the superintendent and there's the Board of Education. Specific examples of what it is that you find to be problematic or what you experience as a parent with regard to your child and a particular coaching program. I think it makes sense to give coaches the opportunity to speak to those issues first. And then if you're not satisfied, then obviously we're always going to be here. And you know where to find me, and you know where to find the athletic director. And the specific examples really do go a long way in helping to focus in on what is meant when someone expresses a concern that SEL is not happening in this program or that program, even if we're trying to make it happen in the classroom. So I do appreciate specific examples, but I think that coaches should have the opportunity to speak to those first. That's all I have to say.
You want to say something?
I do. Due respect, I'm a little concerned with the idea that individuals should have to speak to a coach if there's a situation, and I'm going to speak personally and historically. I had a varsity basketball athlete, and we drove back from Pennsylvania at midnight to be at the day after Thanksgiving tryouts, and I never in a million years thought about that it would be my responsibility as a parent or my daughter's responsibility as an athlete. We just accepted the misery that created, and we did that for the length of time that she played basketball, which was 3 years. And I don't necessarily think that it should be left to one individual. I think it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for there to be some consideration for just what makes sense and is reasonable for, generally for coaching or athletics or any other interscholastic or after-school activity that asks time of families beyond the student themselves. And I think when you're getting into the day before Thanksgiving, when you have a tryout that is obviously going to be after a half day where it's intended because it's a national holiday on Thanksgiving, I don't know that that's about one person or one coach. It might be something that should apply to all programs that are running during that period of the year, or if it's whatever it is. There's lots of examples. So that's just my 2 cents worth.
And I know I can speak to, I remember a long time ago on the board, when only a few of you were on the board with me, having a discussion about this in the policy committee and trying to look at whether there could be specific policies about like when, seasons are allowed to start, like when tryouts are allowed to happen, like specific days that things can be excluded. And we kind of ran up against a wall in the sense that there's some things that are out of the control of the district, like certain competitions or certain events, that happen that might be on a day that we would choose not to do it and stuff. So that we kind of got sidetracked, because of some exceptions to those types of things, a certain season or activities that might compete over spring break or whatever, and we don't have control, and all the schools don't have the same spring break, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So to make a blanket policy saying we can't do anything over spring break, then what do you do about the fact that other schools aren't on break that day? So that's kind of like why it never gets an official policy. But I totally agree that if there's something that just doesn't make sense common sense-wise, you know what I mean, that doesn't have to be that way because it's not something controlled outside of our district, then I think, having that information, like Mr. Markarian said, is useful, because if there's no good reason, for it, and it's not being dictated to us by some outside organization or something, that has to happen that day, then it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. So.
I just want to add one more thing. I think I was on the policy committee when we had those conversations, and it did boil down to exactly what you just described. And to one of the public comments, I will say this: I've had 4 spring athletes, and you can't control when prom or state competition is. There's nothing we can do about that because every high school doesn't run their prom on the same day. And I have had a daughter who needed to be at lacrosse and wanted to be at the prom. And unfortunately, you make a commitment to a team. You make a commitment to a team. I do think, from my experiences, the coaches were reasonable to say, okay, I'm going to get you out of here by whatever, 4:30, something that was manageable, not ideal, but manageable. And no, they couldn't leave at the point 12:30 or whatever it is. But that's something that goes beyond, and there's not a whole lot we can do about when the conference sets state tournaments or county tournaments or whatever it happens to be. But everybody celebrates Thanksgiving. It's an American holiday, so I don't think that one should be something that should be up for a whole lot of debate if there were to be a policy discussion about it.
Anyone else?
My family experience with one of the coaches, our second son applied to college, and they said, you're rejected, but because your older brother's here, we will entertain a personal visit. And so we missed 2 practices. 2 of the sons came with me. One was on one team, one was on another. And we missed 2 practices during February vacation. When we got back, the one son was thrown off the team and wasn't going to get a letter. The other son continued on the team, and he was fine. We ended up suing the school board and got the letter, but it was and I should add one more thing, the school board took 90 days before they came back to us, and then in the court, the school attorney said 90 days went up. The Burns don't have a right to be here, because they let the 90 days go by before they applied for the letter. So I think it is a district problem, and you have to watch the coaches a little bit if it's being abused. I then ran for the school board, and about, 6 years later or so, there was another student who wanted to try out for, I think it was Northeastern, the football team, and he had to go up to Northeastern to be a walk-on during the school year, and he missed a practice, and they benched him. And we had fixed the policy, but the coaches had changed the rules to the procedures, which the board did not approve. So we had a secondary problem, and the administration participated in that decision as well, to let the coaches manipulate the system. So it is a potential problem. I don't know whether he understood all of that, but we had a war with the school board.
Well, I just know none of us were on the school board then, so, yeah. Does anyone else have any comments?
You know, I appreciate Mr. Burns' story, but I feel like that was a long time ago. I mean, no offense or anything, but and I feel like there's a lot more controls in place now. I mean, just by the fact of technology and other things, but I do believe that there should be some common sense applied to, you know, rules. And like we were talking about Thanksgiving, yeah, that's like everyone does that. Everyone celebrates. You're off. I mean, you know, it really is family time, and it's promoted that way, and it's how everyone treats it, and it's not really fair to, like, I can't believe you drove back. It blows my mind that you did that, but just me. But, you know, I think some common sense, but also on the other side, I see that you know, like my son runs track and all year round, and it's a commitment, and, you know, you don't, you know, when you commit to something, you have to, you know, you can have some leeway, but I feel like if there's exceptions for everybody, then what do you have? Do you have a team, or do you don't have a team? So it's a really hard, it's a tough, you want to have competitive teams, but you also want to have family time, so it's a hard thing to, you know, to bring together. But I feel like sometimes if you apply some common sense to certain things, it can, you know, work itself out. So I don't believe that it's as extreme as like Mr. Byrne was saying, but I do believe that there's room for improvement as far as guidelines or whatever, you know. I don't really think a policy would be appropriate, only because everything's so different. There's so many different variables to all these different teams and all the different seasons, and with all the conferences and everything like that. But I don't know. I do believe some feedback would be good, and then what do you do with it? It's just it's a tough position to be in.
I think it's very interesting when the idea that 30 years ago was very different than today. That's true. And have we progressed? Just look at the world of politics in the United States today. My gosh, the country is totally divided. So let's not say we've gotten better at anything. Well, it's all part of how we interact with one another, and it was wonderful to see the students and the schools working on getting along together. But look at the national scene. Oh my gosh. Enough said.
It might be helpful, though, to have some consistency, and I think it is important for kids to be able to go directly to teachers or to coaches, but I don't think it's such a bad idea, and I think this came up that we talked about in SEL, about having some consistency and having some guidelines, and for lack of a better word, like a guideline brochure type of thing. When it came up, we talked about also, you know, the different ways kids are treated by coaches. It's not the same. It all comes down to consistency. And if the message is that Thanksgiving is one of the breaks that homework can't be given, well, there's a reason for that. It's because it's considered family time. So maybe that's one of the times that this should be respected, and not just by some coaches, but by all coaches. Obviously, I don't think that can be necessarily all year round, and it's not just coaches. It's extracurricular. There are other extracurricular activities. I know my son had something. What's today? Monday. Sunday evening that was a requirement for school. And again, it was Thanksgiving. So it's not just the sports that this is an issue that comes up. But I do think there should be some consistency across the board. So, if there's a fall sport or a winter sport or a spring sport, I don't necessarily think some coaches should be doing one thing and some coaches should be doing something else. I think that's where it creates animosity among the kids and also around parents. We're like, well, how come this team is able to do X, Y, and Z and this team's not able to? And there may not be any answer, but I think there needs to be discussion. Are there steps that can be taken? And I'm not talking policy because, you can have a policy and the policies are not necessarily also always going to be effective. But I do think that there should be some, I remember sitting in the meetings, there was one at Cedar Hill where a lot of parents came forward and talked about the problem with, vacations and sports. And again, I get it. You make a commitment, whether you make a commitment to some club or to a sport, and there are certain ramifications that go along with that. But again, we spend so much time talking about, the emotional well-being of kids, and I think that was unfortunate that you had to do something like that at Thanksgiving. Everybody knows it's Thanksgiving. I don't have the answer. I do think it's something that should be explored more than just saying, go directly to the coach or just report. You don't want kids being put in the position of being labeled, the scapegoat. Oh, this person complained, and that's sometimes what happens when it is the kid. The kids don't want to come forward because they don't want to be benched. They don't want to miss a game. They don't want to not get to play a certain position any more than kids in other activities. If there's something going on in that club, they don't want to come forward for the very same reason. So I think there's a bigger issue out there.
I think kind of going back to what Nick said about the specific feedback to coaches, I highly doubt, I played sports in high school, and I don't think any of my coaches were sitting around, much like any of the coaches probably here, saying, I can't wait to ruin a kid's Thanksgiving by having them come back, Friday morning after Thanksgiving or something like that. So I'm sure from the coaching's perspective, it's not easy either. And they're looking at the same way extracurricular, like looking at time to prep for the play or time to prep for the tournament or whatever it is. So before we did anything like policy or whatever, suggestions or something like that, I would want to hear from the coaches as to why they thought a tryout on Wednesday before Thanksgiving was necessary or something like that. And from my own personal experience, those were the times I hated the most, but I remember them the best for some reason. I don't know why. Just, and if you want to talk about kind of kids moving up through sports, as you move up and things get more serious, or in extracurriculars into varsity and maybe even, in collegiate, it just gets more intense and more intense. So it's not, I don't think the coaches are doing it to the detriment of the kids. I think it's part of the process, at least in my experience.
I agree that more discussion, like what you said, is a good thing, because I think it is hard for one individual kid, or one individual family to complain or, whatever. But I think, generally, I think when there's an issue, everyone's aware of it. So I think, it's hard for the students. I think it's, and if there's a problem the parents see, and it's a widespread thing, not just like, an individual thing, that they should, bring the details forward in the appropriate chain of command. And like, if there is no good explanation for it, maybe, giving the coach the benefit of the doubt, maybe they weren't aware that something was that problematic, and maybe there's a reason that, they could explain better about why it has to be that way. Who knows? But I think discussion is a good thing, bringing it forward.
I also want to point out that sometimes it's not so much the kid that has a problem with it, it's that the impact on the family is significant in my example. And this is ancient history, so coaches are long gone, but I will tell you that at some point, and I don't know how the wisdom prevailed, but tryouts stopped being the Friday morning at 6 a.m. after Thanksgiving, and they became Monday after Thanksgiving. And the girls' basketball program has been pretty awesome in recent years. So I don't think those 3 days or whatever it was were a devastating blow in terms of tryout timing. But I do think that in terms of this conversation, we have to remember that mom or dad might be really annoyed at driving back from Pennsylvania at midnight, but the kid might be like, well, this is what I have to do, and I'm just going to do it because I'm going to be the good doobie that I know I'm supposed to be. So it's not always that, the kid's not going to go and talk to the coach if they don't feel as strongly as the parent does. And we're not talking about individual circumstances either. I think there's lots of examples of people who they went on vacation and they left, and the kid went with them, and then they came back and they got to start in the game anyway, and people get upset about things like that. That's individual circumstances. This would be across the one entire team or even season, depending on what it is.
Unfortunately, you've hit one of my funny bones. We went during February vacation, and during the administrative law case, our attorney asked the coach, would you rather have had the Burns go during the school year instead of going during vacation? And the coach said, some days you can go to Ridge High School all day long and not learn a thing. But my wrestling practices are always very inspiring and great for the kids. And so for them to miss that was a major offense. I think that was ridiculous, and that's why we won the letter. But individuals can have strange views. And I think if we're talking about the same thing, there ought to be some board policies or talking about the rules. Same thing for homework from classes. You don't give a lot of homework on Thanksgiving weekend, I don't think.
So now we are up to board forum. Does anyone have anything for board forum? Well, anything else for board forum? No? Okay, can we have a motion for adjournment then? Mrs. Sorner and Mrs. Oldridge.